dive into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us, from personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation. Welcome to Tanisha Talks Tea, where we dive into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics.
Maybe might be a millionaire. But the lady at the deli, the massage therapist, the CNA that works at the nurse's aide, that works at the nursing home, none of those people, the retired guy from Verizon Wireless, are millionaires. None of them are going to be able to relate to any type of lifestyle that Diddy was living. Hell, it's millionaires that don't relate to the lifestyle that Diddy's was living. Okay. He was getting like hundreds of millions of dollars from liquor sponsors. So, yeah, nobody on the jury right now is relatable to Diddy. No one. Even if you're black, if you're not a millionaire, you're not closely relating to anything Diddy did in his life after he became rich and famous. Nothing.
Sometimes see a little more open-minded. Prosecution obviously looking for dyed-in-the-wool older Americans who are just going to be appalled by what they see, hopefully for them. It looks like they each got a little bit of what they wanted. I'm interested to see what the racial composition was of the jury. That always matters, despite what some people say. It matters. But I think everybody got a little bit of what they wanted. And keep in mind, they probably lost a lot of jurors who simply couldn't be fair.
Oh my God. I keep forgetting to unmute. Anyway, did you hear what the white man said? Okay. Even he's interested in knowing who the jurors are, the races of the jurors. First thing I wanted to know when I got up and got into the tea of all Diddy things today. Okay. What race are the jurors? The girl that's running, the reporter that's running tea out of the courthouse to the guy on the long crime host here, she's saying that there are black people serving on the jury for Diddy. However, we also know, reading as I read when we first came in to sip this tea, and also the guy Brian, no, not him. Okay, the guy with the black spiky hair, that's hosting Long Crime. He said that there are deli, food truck people that work on the food truck or the deli thing. You know what I'm saying? Like there are massage therapists, there are CNAs that work at the nursing home, there are retired Verizon Wireless people. Guy worked at Verizon Wireless for 40 years. Even if they're black, they're not relating to Diddy in those genres of life. Okay, like there are people that are on Diddy's level, not level, but millionaire status, that are not playing in Diddy's playground where Diddy was. Didn't Diddy have a house in Star Island? Like nobody on that jury was related to Diddy, even if they're black. So we're gonna keep it pushing.
Qualification.
Yeah, and look, I think that when they raise an objection early on today, about a Batson challenge, saying the prosecution's eliminating black jurors. That's a significant accusation to make, not uncommon. You see a lot of those challenges made during the preemptory phase. But the judge didn't say it was significant because the prosecution basically came back and gave their reasoning for why these jurors were being eliminated. And that actually answers one of the questions we got from one of our viewers, Megamind678. Why did the jury count drop so significantly? Because they did the preemptory challenges in just a few minutes and got it listed out. Okay, we have a question from KC. Do you think they will find Combs guilty? What could these charges land him?
Well, it depends on what they are. I would be stunned if he walked away from all of these charges. Some of them seem like pretty low-hanging fruit. Obviously, if he's convicted of the racketeering, he's going to serve easily over a decade in prison. It could be far longer than that. But if he's only convicted of some of the less serious charges, perhaps the charges that relate to just transporting for engaging prostitution, it might not be as severe a sentence as one might think. So it all depends. What is he going to be convicted of? If he gets clipped on the racketeering conspiracy, he's going to be in prison for a long, long time.
Life in prison. Life in prison. That's what he's potentially looking at there. And it's incredibly significant here. The stakes could not be higher for Sean Combs. I want to make that very clear. We got a super chat question from Garrett. Garrett, thank you so much for the contribution. How likely will Diddy be to work out a deal as he sees the overwhelming evidence the state has? What a great question. Because I was always saying it seemed unlikely to me that Diddy was going to take a deal. One of the reasons that he rushed towards this trial, let me be clear, he rushed towards this trial. To have a federal case go to trial in under a year from arrest and indictment, given the charges here and the evidence, seems shocking to me. If he made bail, I was fairly confident he was going to try to push this trial down the road as long as possible. It seems to me he does not want to spend one more day locked up. But then I'm starting to think, he's last week reported, he told the court he's a little bit nervous. The reality of this is setting in. Jury selected, opening statements. He's going to see the evidence against him. You think there's a possibility he takes a deal in the middle of this trial?
It's always a possibility. The big question is there going to be a deal waiting for him now that trial has begun? I will tell you the Department of Justice for decades has been very, very, very serious about the fact that if you're going to take an
Exactly. Diddy did not take the deal that he was originally offered, whatever that was. I wonder what that was. What do y'all think the deal was? I think it was for 10 years. I think they offered Diddy 10 to 20 and he was like, hell no. But they usually don't let you change in the middle of the stream once you start rolling. You got to keep on trudging forward. You took it to trial. Now you must face a jury of your 12 peers and be sentenced or be led free. Okay, so
an offer, you're going to take an offer before the bell rings, and they'll pull it right after the bell rings. Now, they're pretty smart too. I'd be interested to see what everybody thought of the jury they got. If I'm the defense and I didn't get anywhere near what I wanted as a jury, I might want to today really think about revisiting plea negotiations. But my guess is they were probably years away from any kind of agreement in terms of a plea bargain.
When you say that, you mean what he wanted to spend in prison versus what the prosecution. That's what you mean by years away.
Exactly. They weren't. Right. My guess is they didn't offer him anything that he thought was worthy of consideration. And in a high-profile case like this, that's not really surprising. They really, think about how this began with, tanks and whatever vehicles they sent to his home when they first executed those warrants. You're not going to go through all that and at the end of the day offer him a kiss. And my guess is they're nowhere near a deal and there won't be a deal.
We got a great question from Rel. You think it's a mistake if they put Cassie on early in a 2-month trial? I think it's a great question for a number of reasons. She officially today is a part of this case. This is the first time her name has officially been part of this, okay? Victim 1, okay? I think we can all say she's victim 1. Now, if they start off with her and she's strong, what a way for the prosecution to start the case. And I believe a lot of this, if not all of this, is built upon her. This case was started through her. But if you listen to the defense and they keep saying it's choices that she made, she kept coming back to Sean Combs. This is not episodes of sex trafficking. If she is not as strong a witness for the prosecution as they were hoping, and they put her on first, is it a mistake? Either way, do you think it would be a mistake for her to be one of the first witnesses, if not the first witness in this trial, Brian?
Yeah, I do. I really think it's better that they build to her. I don't expect her to be last. I would expect her probably to proceed the other, what I'll call complaining witnesses, because she really is the case. I'll also be surprised if what is being projected as a 2-month trial ends up a 2-month trial. So answering the question, it's a great question. It's all strategic. They've prepped her. The government knows what they're going to get from her. Her cross is going to be her cross. My guess is you get her early, but you get her after some layers of evidence that can't be disputed and can't be cross-examined.
So again, we're taking your questions right now in this lunchtime show. No cameras in court. We are doing our best to report to you as soon as possible about what is happening in that courtroom. And just to let everybody know what the charges are, because we talk about it a lot, let me just tell you what the charges again. He's facing 5 charges. Count 1, racketeering conspiracy. Count 2, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion of Cassandra Ventura, victim 1. Count 3, transportation of victim 1, Cassandra Ventura, and also sex workers with the intent to engage in prostitution. And counts 4 and 5 are related to victim 2, unidentified, don't know who they are, don't know who this person is, but again, it repeats the charges with respect to victim 1, so sex trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution. Very, very, very serious crimes. Even that last one, transportation to engage in prostitution, some would say maybe the simplest charge to actually convict him on, 10 years in prison, max sentence of 10 years in prison. So let's go back to the questions. We have one from Ace. I think I'm saying it right, Ace, TM. Where is witness 3, paid off or dead? Look, Brian, I don't know if you saw the reporting going into today.
Excuse me.
But alleged victim number 3, apparently the prosecution is having trouble making contact with this person. And it became a question, are they going to test?
I'm going to give a little tea. I want to say thank you to everybody that's tuning in. We are covering everything live first day of Diddy's trial. I think Diddy got rid of them. That has not been something Diddy is not shy of doing. In one way or the other, that person either ran away or got hid away.
Testify or not? One of the questions we had moving on to the trial today was, if they can't find victim 3, does this case have to be delayed? Isn't it weird what's going on with victim 3 or alleged victim 3?
I've never seen anything like it in a high-profile case, particularly a case being brought by the Department of Justice, that a witness right before the start of trial just vanishes or goes underground. Never seen it. They've usually gotten them buttoned up. They've gotten them either in witness protection or they're with agents. I've never, ever seen a controversy like this, and it could be significant. But I'll tell you something, this judge isn't going to delay a trial because they can't find their witness. This judge is going to say, finish what you've got, and if you don't have this witness, rest. And those counts that may relate to this witness may go right out the window.
You want to hear something interesting, Brian? So we put a poll up there about who you think won opening statements today. 78% say the prosecution won opening statements today. 22% say the defense. Now, again, we weren't in that courtroom. This is based on the reporting. But again, it goes to this idea, if you are the Southern District of New York and you are prosecuting a case against Sean Combs, you better have the goods. And maybe it seems that they feel they have the goods of all these alleged crimes. And they have a way of trying to tie it together. Who the witnesses are going to be, sex workers, employees, alleged victims, they're the ones who are going to tell this story, as well as any documentary evidence as well. But I find that interesting.
It's interesting that it's not closer. And
Yeah.
it's tough to gauge by the polls because, who's in the courtroom, who's not, who's listening. But, we've been talking about how wonderful, and I've been talking about how wonderful the defense team is in this case. You've got a who's who of some really great lawyers. Well, make no mistake about it, the people prosecuting this case are very, very good. You've got a, career prosecutor who opened today who's tried numerous racketeering cases in the past. So I'm not as surprised as one may think, particularly given what I would call an avalanche of bad activity. I mean, if you're just listening to it and listening to the behavior, it's pretty horrific behavior. Whether it becomes a case where they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt all these charges that you've enumerated, Jess, that I don't know. That I don't know.
We have a question from Gail Laurent. Will there be evidence that will not be accepted by the jury? Let's talk about how they found the tapes or all the leaks. So it's an interesting question, right? When you say not accepted by the jury, meaning they don't believe it, they are not going to use it in their determination, or it's not going to be brought into evidence. I'm not exactly sure. I will tell you, Brian, I mean, leading up to this trial, and I did a bunch of sidebars on it, there was multiple attempts by the defense to say a lot of this evidence shouldn't come in because the warrants that were used to obtain this evidence were ineffective. They were invalid. That the magistrate judge wasn't provided a complete picture of the situation. That if the judge had gotten all the evidence, what they say, of the text messages and the communications, they would have seen a consensual relationship. It didn't work. This is going forward. And it does become a question of, it's an 8-week trial. How much is the prosecution going to put forward, and how much is the jury going to see, and how much are they going to accept?
Well, they're going to see it all. I mean, to your point, the defense tried very hard to exclude a lot of this evidence. Now that the court has ruled, the judge has ruled, this jury must accept it. Now, whether or not they think it's enough to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't know. But they've got to accept all of the evidence that is going to be introduced in this case. They don't have the luxury of saying, well, we think it was a bad warrant. We don't think the government had the right to seize it. Those decisions have been made. This jury will be instructed that they're supposed to accept this evidence and give it whatever weight they deem, appropriate. But they're going to get it, and they're going to see it. And this isn't going to be one of those cases, Jess, where I anticipate that you're going to get a light version of the prosecution. I think they're going to throw everything they've got at him, with the worry that because of his celebrity and because of his status and because of those little things, they don't want to leave anything outside the courtroom. They're gonna put it all up there and ask this jury to consider every single piece of it. They
have to. If they're trying to say what separates this as a domestic violence situation or a relationship versus a federal crime, it has to be Combs directing them, forcing them, threatening them, using violence in order to rise to the level of sex trafficking. If they're going to say racketeering, and I have to tell you, I thought it was very interesting, Kenny Garagos. So in racketeering, everybody knows that you need to prove 2 underlying crimes, right, to get to the racketeering conspiracy: kidnapping, arson, forced labor. She went through each one of them and said why it's not that, why it's not kidnapping, why it's not sex trafficking, why it's not forced labor. And she went through them. And obviously that'll be something that moves forward, but they're trying to dismantle the prosecution's case. Got a question here from Miss Can't Be Wrong. Phenomenal name, for the record. Miss Can't Be Wrong, phenomenal name. The confidence there, I can't even match that. All right, this is for all the lawyers here. If Cassie settled her lawsuit against Diddy, took his money, how is it she can now testify against him? I'm curious, right? Because Cassie did file a lawsuit against Sean Combs in November 2023, settled with him the day after, and then we know there was just an avalanche of lawsuits against him and then ultimately the criminal charges. Fair question, right, Brian?
Really fair question. And this is from Mr. I'm Usually Wrong. The answer to the question, though, is if there's a criminal prosecution, all of that stuff doesn't matter at all. They can subpoena you. They can require you to testify. Obviously, it wouldn't be admissible in any kind of a civil context or a lawsuit. But in a criminal context, all those deals and agreements, they're right out the window.
But she could be cross-examined on it for sure.
Oh, sure. And, her motivations will be tested. The fact that she might have been extorting him or shaking him down. All of that's absolutely fair game, and I would expect to be a lot of the cross-examination in this case. I mean, this wasn't somebody who was slave labor. One of the problems I've always had with the theory of this prosecution was there are no juveniles involved. There's not an allegation of real human trafficking as we understand it to be. These are escorts or girlfriends or significant others that are going along for the ride, and it's in some ways a very luxurious ride. And so I think you're going to see a lot of fair cross-examination on just how motivated they were by the dollar. And he had a lot of them.
Well, I'll tell you, it was brought up today in the opening statements. I don't remember if it was the prosecution and defense, but they brought up that she filed a public lawsuit in 2023. They're not shying away from that. That's coming in. People are going to know about that. And by the way, it's interesting. I did a sidebar today. It's coming out later on the Alexander brothers. So these are another high-profile sex trafficking case at the federal level. And I was interviewing an attorney about it. I said, it's interesting how this is being prosecuted similar to Combs, because our classic understanding of sex trafficking is you have this shadowy organization that kidnaps people from a foreign country, ships them out, sells them to people. That's what you think about when you think of sex trafficking. The attorney, but they said, that might be an easier case for a jury to understand and digest, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what Combs is accused of doing and what the brothers are accused of doing is not sex trafficking. If it makes those elements and you have interstate transportation, commercial sex acts, force, fraud, coercion, you can ultimately get a prosecution here. Okay, we got a question from Brooke Barnes for you. How can you as a lawyer be certain that the jury can remain unbiased with a defendant that's well-known and having well-known celebrities involved in any capacity? How do you combat that during trial? Brian?
You never can. Jurors give you their answers before you pick them. You hope that they're telling the truth. You hope that they've searched their soul for what are the true answers. But believe me, in high-profile cases, you're going to have people that are on these juries who have a view, and that may be a real positive view of the celebrity or a real negative view of the celebrity, or just a desire to be on that jury because it's a celebrity trial. And you never know as a lawyer who's trying to pick those juries, and as a trial lawyer who's trying those cases, where everybody is. And that's why you're looking at them. You're looking at their eye contact, their posturing, how they react to certain witnesses. I've had celebrity trials where people all of a sudden will start wearing T-shirts on the jury that have messages on them and stuff. So sometimes these folks can get enamored with the celebrity nature of the trial. Sometimes it turns out to be a real circus. But most times, most of these jurors honor the law and honor their oaths and come in there and decide these cases on the facts. And I'm guessing that they'll do that here.
By the way, so we're here for another 20, 30 minutes. I'm getting live updates about what's happening in court. We're going to present those live updates to you as well. So right now, for example, court is back in session. After this lunch, first witness from the government to testify. No idea who that person is. As soon as I find out, you will find out. We'll talk about it. But we're taking more of your questions right now on YouTube. Here's a great question here, Brian, from Stephen Ramsey. How can you be charged with a conspiracy, right? Conspiracy to commit racketeering. How can you be charged with conspiracy when it's only one person? Great question, right? Wasn't that the whole Ghislaine Maxwell situation? Who was she sex trafficking everybody to? Why is she the only one? Yeah. Why is Combs the only defendant in this case?
Yeah, I've never quite understood why he's the only defendant in the case. But unfortunately for the defense under the law, you don't have to have indicted co-conspirators. They can be unidentified co-conspirators. They can be co-conspirators that are identified but never charged. And the jury will be told that. So it won't be an obstacle to proving the conspiracy. But jurors are reasonable people, and they may be saying to themselves, how is this a racketeering conspiracy? And this guy's the only guy in the courtroom. I think it's a really interesting issue legally, unfortunately, for the defense and fortunately for the prosecution. They don't need to charge anybody else as a co-conspirator to charge a conspiracy.
Well, I think those are going to be the cooperating witnesses. I would have to imagine if they're going to have his staff and people who are around him. But obviously, their incentive to testify against him now will be a prime material for cross-examination. So as we wait for these live updates to come into court, got a great question here from Mohican 161. And it goes to a question I didn't have a chance to ask Elizabeth yet, but she might not have the answer because we haven't seen any evidence come into the courtroom yet. But will Puff's children see the videos if they present it in court? Let's enlarge that question. This jury is going to see videos of freak-offs. Is everyone in the gallery going to see the videos, or are they going to have private screens, and the witness is going to have private screens, and all we're going to hear is the testimony regarding that video? How does it work when you deal with sensitive material like this?
In every case I've ever had, the jurors certainly will have private screens, but it'll be shown to the entire courtroom. It's a
Really?
public courtroom. It's a
Wow.
public courtroom, and unless there has been some type of order issued, sometimes things can be really graphic. Sometimes, there can be agreement among the parties that it not be demonstrated.
Tea sippers. I don't know about y'all, but I definitely know that the kids of the Combs family should not be in the courtroom when they show their daddy freaking. Who wants to watch their parents fucking? Nobody. Okay, stop the madness, sir. Mr. White Man on the screen, please stop the madness, sir. Now, we've been fucking with you. Okay, we like your commentary on what you're speaking about Diddy so far. You seem unbiased. But his children should not be subjected to him fucking on video in that courtroom. They need to escort all children out. If they show sex in front of kids, that puts the whole courtroom in a place of, what are y'all exposing kids to? Yeah, we're not going to go there, sir. We're not going to.
But I've never had a case where it's not shown to the courtroom. And depending upon your vantage point, you may have a better look at some of the video footage than others. There's no requirement that they make it easy for the gallery to see, but I've never seen a case where they exclude it from the gallery. It's evidence. It'd be nothing, be like bringing in a gun and handing it to a witness and not letting the jurors see the gun. It's part of the case. It's part of the trial. If you're in the courtroom,
but as I said, the children.
We've got a question from
the children should not be subjected. Not even his grown kids. His grown kids, however, are of the legal age to view something sexual. But his children that are under the age of 18, anybody under the age of 18 should be escorted out of the courtroom. And also anyone in the courtroom that does not want to see Mr. Combs in an intimate sexual graphic nature, you need to please exit the courtroom as well while we all view the evidence. ABC Exhibit A. Okay, that's how that should be conducted. I don't want to be sitting anywhere and you pop on a orn. Okay, you pop on some orn on the damn situation and I don't even know what's going on and I'm just uncomfortable because you pop some orn on. And God forbid it be one of my parents. Like, what are you talking? Escort all underage people from the courtroom whenever, you know what I'm saying? Y'all have that going. I mean, like, what are y'all trying to be, subjecting young people to, and just because it's a courtroom? Young people should not be subjected to watching anything of that graphic nature at the hands of adults. Okay, yeah. Y'all drop some teacups down in the chat. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Should Sean Puffy Combs' kids not be escorted out of the courtroom whenever they are going to show the freak off tapes? What do you guys think? Yes or no? Drop it in the chat along with your teacups. And when you get in here and fill your teacup up, don't be stingy. Please give it back tenfold to the like button and the subscribe button. Thank you.
Moko Halstead, by the way, just giving everybody live updates. The jury was brought back into the room. Combs was brought back into the courtroom. They're starting their afternoon session now. The judge said there was an issue regarding the exhibit with an added note. There was an objection, was well taken. It's going to be excluded. Not really sure what that's about. So the jury's back in. All rise. Now, the first thing they're doing, when the judge asked, is the government ready to call its first witness, AUSA, the Assistant United States Attorney, so we're talking about a prosecutor here. First, we enter 4 exhibits. The defense, no objection. That's standard. So we have the introduction of exhibits, I guess, before witness testimony. How does that work?
Sure. I mean, they'll enter the exhibits by stipulation sometimes, and they've obviously stipulated to the exhibit so they can just get right to it with the witness. It might be video, it might be maps, it might be any number of things, documents, but they're getting that in before the witness actually takes a stand. It's not unusual in federal cases at all.
So, got a question here, a super chat question. Thank you so much from Nest Dog. Where's Christina Quorum? Will she be a witness? Now, this was, by all accounts, Combs' former chief of staff. She has come up in other litigation before. The allegation being she knew what was going on, was a part of it. I don't know if she's going to be a witness in this case. But what do I remember in opening statements today? I remember reading they use the term chief of staff or chief of staffs. Makes me wonder, she's probably going to be a witness, no?
I would think she would be, unless she's got some Fifth Amendment prohibition. She may have asserted the Fifth before a grand jury. She may have a lawyer saying, I'm not going to put her on the witness stand without immunity. If the government didn't grant her immunity, if she felt like she needed it, she might not be a witness. If she has no exposure, Fifth Amendment exposure in the case, and simply as a fact witness, there's nothing preventing them from calling her. You know, government, though, is only going to call witnesses that are going to help their case. It's only in unusual circumstances where they'll call a reluctant witness, and that's usually out of necessity, and they may not have that necessity here. So if she's not a reluctant witness and she doesn't have any Fifth Amendment implications, you'll probably see her.
You want to know who the first witness is of the Sean Combs criminal trial, Brian?
Go ahead.
We are going to call LAPD officer Israel Flores. Now, he comes in, says, I'm a reservist for the Army. I was a guard with Securitas in 2016 in the Intercontinental Hotel near Century City. What happened on March 5th, 2016? I was told of the 6th floor. So they are starting with arguably the most important piece of evidence in this case. Are they not? Are they starting now with the video of Sean Combs purportedly beating Cassandra Ventura?
There they are. They have come out and they decided we're going to come out with a home run. And the idea behind it is pretty simple. Let's now poison this jury with evidence that they'll never, ever, ever forget. Let's start this game, for lack of a better way to describe it, 10-0 in the first inning. And it's a smart play because it's going to be the first thing these jurors see. And they're going to see this again and again, by the way, before this trial's over. Well, what a first impression. And think about it in terms of life. First impressions are sometimes the most important ones.
Let me tell you why I think this is so brilliant. In the scheme of this whole timeline, when Cassandra Ventura came out with her allegations, a lot of people looked at it and said, how do we know it's true? You know, another person accusing high-profile celebrity. How do we know it's true? When that video came out, it not only corroborated a section of her complaint where she talked about this, some would feel it corroborated everything she said. So if the jury sees this first and then she testifies, what a great move by the prosecution. That, at least my opinion, Brian. But here, I got another question for you. This is from Roger Wade. Oh, Roger, thank you so much. Super chat question. Thank you so much for your contribution. How crucial is Combs' apology going to be regarding the validity of the hotel video? Well, can't deny it's him.
You know, listen, there's some things, you know, you can accept an apology for. This isn't going to be one of them. No one's going to really care that he apologized. I think what the defense has already started to do and what they will continue to do is eat this and simply say, listen, yeah, if this was a state court prosecution for domestic violence, he would have pled guilty. He's already said he's sorry. He did that. He's not a racketeer, and this isn't a racketeering conspiracy.
Yeah, it was interesting when they were talking about the videos, right? Should the CNN video come in? Should other versions of it come in? What's accurate, what's not? There was an argument brought forward by the prosecution saying, you want to talk about authenticity of the tape? Sean Combs admitted it was him in his Instagram apology. That's authenticity right there, which again begs the question, why on earth he decided from a legal point of view it was a good idea to make that video. I still don't know, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, hindsight's a great thing. I don't think he ever saw this coming. But there's no way to get around the video. The question is, what does the video mean in the context of these charges? And I'll say that
So I'm going to see some tea on that statement he just made about the matter of Sean Puffy Combs's apology to Cassie. So I think he did it because he was high and scared. Remember, Sean Puffy was arrested with whatever they're calling pink Oaina. Okay, he was arrested with that. Okay, pink Oaina, y'all know what that is. Okay, the good stuff, right? He was arrested with some of it. So it's like, what he was doing up until the point he got arrested with it. He knew he was in New York, and he knew he was going to talk to the feds, and he knew they could be potentially pulling up on him at any given minute because they had already raided his homes in every single state he lived in. Okay, type shit. So it's like, whatever. I think he was high. I think he got high and got scared and got on there and started talking and started rambling, said a lot of goofy, stupid shit. And it also, like a lot of things, domino affected on him. What do you guys think? Why do you guys think Sean Puffy Combs gave Cassie a video public apology? Drop it in the chat along with your teacups. Remember to also like and subscribe when you come in and fill your teacup up with Tanisha Talks Teas.
I love the move. I love the fact that they're starting with it. But unless they're going to also end with it, if this is a 2-month trial, a lot can happen in 2 months.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I want to confirm this for sure, but I think that one of the reasons they might also bring this witness in, right, is to establish that he bought the tape and he was trying to cover up his crime, and maybe it was a sense of one of those underlying predicate crimes they have to prove for racketeering conspiracy. So not only do they not only get the attack, they get the cover up, which is another essential element of racketeering.
As I listened to what was being described in the opening speeches, I thought that was huge.
Yeah.
Because it's manipulation. He's not only manipulating people, he's manipulating evidence. He's the puppeteer. And I think you're absolutely right. I think they're going to go down that road really, really hard, that he threw money at cover-up, that he threw money at covering evidence, covering witnesses. And that has a big impact on jurors. The everyday person sees that, and, you're not covering up innocent behavior. You're not covering up non-criminal behavior.
Yeah.
And it's significant evidence.
Well, Tenny Garagos, who's his defense attorney, in her opening statement said, on bribery, this is about the Intercontinental Hotel. He paid a security guard to make the footage go away. This was solely to prevent bad publicity for Combs and for Cassie. There was no law enforcement investigation. What do you think about that?
Well, you got to be careful with that, because I'm not so sure that's true. If it is true, then it's a great argument. But it begs the question, the reason that there's no law enforcement investigation, because the tape went away and you shut her up. So if I'm the prosecutor, I'm going to have a lot to say about that, that it was everything about getting rid of evidence so he would not go to jail on a state court domestic violence case. And it would also allow the government to say, I heard the defense up here talking about how this is domestic violence. Well, there's a reason it didn't get prosecuted, because he got rid of all the evidence. And he shut her up. So, it's going to go back and forth like this for 2 months.
It really is. It really is. And we just got an update from court. So Mr. Flores says, and again, first witness of the Sean Combs trial. This is somebody who had worked at the Intercontinental Hotel as a security guard. He's currently a LA police officer. So he was a security guard at the Intercontinental back in 2016. He says, there I recognize Sean Combs. He is there wearing a gray sweater. The prosecutor asks, what was your title? He replies, Assistant Director of Security. The prosecutor says, let me show you a photo of the Intercontinental Hotel. The Flores says it's shaped like a pyramid, and that exhibit has been admitted. So they're using him to lay a foundation for some of the evidence that's going to be put forward here. I have a question from Alicia Velgos. Is Jennifer Lopez being subpoenaed? Probably unlikely, right?
I can't imagine.
Because what would be the value of her testimony? What would she say?
I don't think that's going to happen. It'd be great for us, but I don't think that's going to happen. It certainly wouldn't be great for Ms. Lopez. So I wouldn't anticipate. I think we would have heard about that one loud and clear pre-trial if that was happening.
it seems that the prosecution wanted to be very specific with how they charged this. I mean, if you look at all of the allegations Sean Combs has been facing in the last 2 years, year and a half, if they wanted to potentially charge him with everything into one case, I think we would need years to get through it. They're very specific in what they charged him with and also what they didn't charge him with and who they're going to call and who they're not going to call, right?
Yeah, and you don't want to open up the door to weak evidence or to weak allegations. You do it like they've done it with, with a silencer as opposed to a shotgun. Because when you do it broadly and you do it, with a kind of a broad-based brush, the defense can have a ball with it, cutting it to pieces. I think the way they've charged it is smart. Whether they've overcharged it with racketeering, we're going to find out.
Got a question from Vanessa. How long do you think the trial will last? We believe it's going to be 8 weeks, which is a significantly long time. I mean, tough for a jury to sit on any case, let alone a high-profile case like this, let alone with the evidence they're going to be seeing. 8 weeks. That's no wonder you needed 6 alternates, right?
I'm going to say something, though. We got a jury this morning. They opened, we're into witnesses. I've had experiences, a lot of experiences in federal court as opposed to state court. Everybody has the mind and memory of the Simpson trial, which, lasted forever. It's a state court process.
Let's stop right there and sip some tea. Sorry, guys, I would have been in here like 2 seconds earlier, but I'm eating potato chips. And I don't want all the crunching on the screen. So anywho, right? They're talking about who will be dragged down through here with Diddy. I also saw Michael B. Jordan's name up there. I don't know why. Is it because he got the #1 movie out right now? Like, what's going on? We never really know why people do the stupid shit that they do. But I guess we're going to maybe find out. However, where's Usher? If anybody can give a firsthand account to how Diddy behaves in a sexual nature, with minors, it would definitely be Usher. He had some type of a physical custody of Usher when he was like 11 years old or some shit like that. And Usher has alluded to the fact that, yes, he's seen a lot of adults engaging in a lot of sexual activities, including Diddy's, and that he possibly was also a minor when he was made to encounter sexually with adults. Where is Usher? Okay, where is Justin Bieber? That when Usher got tired of doing whatever things he was doing in the Diddy camp, he recruited Justin Bieber when he was also a very young minor child. Where is Justin Bieber? Okay. Then there's like Jamie Foxx. Wasn't Jamie Foxx the cameraman for Diddy before Jamie Foxx became famous on In Living Color or potentially during In Living Color? Wasn't he carrying around the big camcorders that used to carry around back in the early 90s and shit like that, recording everything that Diddy did? Didn't Jamie Foxx come out about a year or so ago and say that he had salacious footage of Diddy? And then didn't Jamie Foxx wind up almost dead in the hospital? Wasn't it suspicions around Diddy potentially doing that to Jamie Foxx because Jamie Foxx said he was the videographer for Diddy and he used to carry around a big ass camera for Diddy and record everything Diddy did, including engage in sexual activities? Where is Jamie Foxx to testify about Diddy's nature and character? Those are 3 key people that I can think of that should be at the Diddy trial: Usher, Justin Bieber, and Jamie Foxx. Okay, who else do you guys know? Like, we really know. I think I'll Be Sure should probably be up in there. I think a lot of the young boy bands that Diddy made back in the day, like B2K and the Bump 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 Boys with Omarion and all of them, and they go bump bump bump. Ain't that them, B2K? Yeah. They should be in there talking about Diddy, because isn't it alleged that they were, made to, I believe it's Omarion and them, made to engage in intimate or sexual, acts with each other, boys, all boy group, at the hands of being supposed to be managed by Diddy. Okay. Who do you guys believe should also be down to the Diddy trial to testify? Drop your tea in the chat and we will sip it and see if it has any relevancy to Diddy's life. We are listening to All Things Diddy. First day of his trial starts now.
Prosecution. Federal court cases don't go like that. And sometimes when they estimate 8 weeks for a federal case, suddenly 8 weeks turns into 6. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little less than the time period they're projecting.
Well, we'll see. They're going to be taken off for certain holidays as well and things like that. And obviously there could be some issues that delay trial. 8 weeks, long time. Question from Kaylee. Keeley. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing it. My question is if Sean Combs is found guilty, what does that mean for all that have been implicated? Do they get charged? Now, that wouldn't be the first time, Brian, that we see a prosecution of one individual first that potentially leads to the arrest and indictment and prosecution of other people.
Yeah, you do see it. You see it in cases where people are convicted and then they roll on other people. I don't envision that here. They had plenty of time to make decisions about charging other people. Unless something happens during this trial in the way.
Diddy is the big fish. Now, there are rumors, saying that there are bigger fish than Diddy that could be caught. However, I hear that they're of the Caucasian persuasion and, just in places and spaces that right now, nobody's investigating them or looking out for them, like the Epstein's, you know what I'm saying, where the Caucasian persuasion, it took time for them to be brought to the light of what they were doing. We'll have to see. But right now, Diddy's the big fish on the hook. Believe that. Okay? He's the big fish on the hook.
Of additional evidence coming in or witnesses making declarations that weren't anticipated. I'd be stunned if we got more people prosecuted out of this unless there was some kind of effort made on the part of Diddy after the fact if he were to be convicted to cooperate, which I don't anticipate at all.
By the way, Brian, the reason we're having this in-depth conversation right now as the court is in session and we're having live updates, there are no cameras in federal court. Why are there no cameras in federal court? Why is there no audio generally permitted in federal court? What's the rationale here when you have state courts across the country?
I absolutely love the host of Law and Fucking Crime because he answers every single one of my questions. You gotta love it. Tanisha Talks Teats. I was like, they might as well open the court. I already know everything going on. Open up the courthouse, make it a public affair. Diddy is a celebrity. None of his life is hidden. They used to have Jamie Foxx carrying around a camera, for God's sake. The videography, everything about his life. His life is a movie. He's a movie star. Open up the courthouse and let us in.
The country that do permit it.
Yeah, and I practice in a state court that doesn't. The federal courts just universally have a belief that cameras in the courtroom can have a disastrous effect on juries and courtroom proceedings. That jurors can be compromised, that jurors can be exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to, and they're very protective of the jury system. The flip side of it is these are public trials, and particularly in cases like this where the public cares about it and wants to know, I've always had the view that they ought to be able to see it because people can be distrustful. And sometimes things happen behind closed doors that, jurors may benefit from the fact that there isn't any cameras, but people, the citizens, don't. So I don't think we're ever going to see it change. I wish it would. And for those state courts that don't have it, like Pennsylvania, I wish they would put the cameras in there so everybody can see how the sausage is made.
And we could see more of Brian McMonagle, because who doesn't want that at the end of the day? We all want to see Brian McMonagle a little bit more.
Well, that would be the reason not to, perhaps, but
well,
my family would disagree with you.
So we have another update from court right now, because it's currently in session. We just talked about no cameras. The prosecutor asked, what kind of incidents did you respond to? Again, this is the former security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel. Mr. Flores says all kinds. We had a couple of suicides there. We prepare incident reports, the 5 W's. The prosecutor says, would you attach photos to the reports? The response, yes, but not video. We did not have the password. Okay, so all laying up into the foundation of this alleged attack from Sean Combs against Cassandra Ventura. Here's something interesting. We have a poll up. Poll says, do you think the 2016 hotel video will be crucial to this case? 85% of the people who took this poll say yes. 15% say no. Now, crucial, ambiguous word about what that means. It's obviously going to have to be considered by the jury. I would say 100% has to be considered by the jury. But will it sway them to say Sean Combs is guilty or not? I don't know. What do you think, Brian?
Well, it makes him a bad guy. And, you know, a lot of jury trials are tried with people who are celebrities.
And I'm going to pause it right there and sip some tea right at this point. It makes him look like a sex trafficker. It makes everything that Cassie said Diddy did be like a monster. We've all seen like the last Rambo movie, where his niece or whoever that he was, you know, stepping in like a father figure was kidnapped by her own friend and then turned over into sex trafficking. What they do to you in sex trafficking is exactly what Diddy was doing to Cassie on that hotel floor. Okay, where do traffickers and people that, you know, sell people and do things, what are they doing at? Hotels. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, the video makes it look 10 times worse to anybody that's listening to Cassie's testimony about Diddy's lifestyle and then what he's doing to her in the hallway at the hotel. He looks like a sex trafficker in the hotel video. Yes, Sean Puffy Combs does.
These who don't have that kind of baggage, that, you know, you don't have to think, well, wow, he did this, he did that. Maybe he's not the great guy we think he is. Well, this is a bad guy. I mean, this video paints him as a bad guy. And when you're in the defense camp like I am and you're defending a case, it stinks to start with, I got a bad guy sitting next to me, because if he's a bad guy, maybe he's capable of everything the prosecution says he is. Having said that, I think the defense is going to work really, really hard to call this what it is. It's bad conduct. It's a criminal charge in state court. We're in federal court. They've made a federal case out of a guy who's committed state court assault.
Yeah. Violence, not sex trafficking. Two separate things. Yep. That's what they're going to be argument is. We've got a question, a super chat question.
But as I said, T sippers, okay? According to what Cassie Ventura is saying, Diddy is a sex trafficker. And that's what he made her, you know, live, you know, to live with him doing. The video confirms what Cassie is saying Diddy did, which was sex traffic her by him grabbing her, kicking her, you know, punching her, throwing her to the floor, hitting her with heavy objects, then dragging her back to a hotel room that looks like he was sex trafficking her. Say he wasn't. She said he did, and then the video shows him treating her like what? A sex trafficker. Okay.
G. Disney, thank you so much for your contribution, G. Disney. Really appreciate it. What reforms, industry-wide or legislative, should be proposed to prevent replication of similar abuse by other powerful figures? It's an interesting question. What do you think, Ryan?
Well, I don't think there's going to be any legislation, but, you know, guilty verdicts will have that effect. And, if at the end of this trial there's a guilty verdict, and we discussed another pending case that's going on now with some rather wealthy folks, it tends to send messages. It tends to clean up bad behavior. A guilty verdict in this case, I think, would go a long way toward that. Whether there's ever going to be legislation on this, I mean, what legislation could you impose? You either make conduct criminal or you don't. Could you add different crimes to the crime code? I suppose you could, but the government would tell you we've already got the crimes on the books, and that's why we prosecuted them for it.
One of the questions I keep getting asked constantly about this case, I don't think anybody's asked it yet today, is will Sean Combs take the stand? He did it in his last trial so many years ago, the nightclub shooting, very different circumstances. You think he'll take the stand this time around?
I don't. And that's just a gut reaction. I think he's got too much to answer for. And I think what we're seeing with the defense in this case is just a kind of a clinical attack on the elements of the charges. I think if he got up there and testified, he'd be subjected to some significant cross-examination.
They would rip Diddy a new asshole. If Diddy, all women, if Diddy got on the stand, they would rip Diddy a new asshole. Diddy would want to die and never be born again. He wouldn't even want to be reincarnated. Because Diddy has got some very, very bad, scandalous things that are surrounded around him. You get 4 or 5 badass women attorneys, and a lot of it's doing with sex and women and, just the worst crimes against women and that you could possibly be charged with. They're gonna rip Diddy a new asshole. But I'm curious, I will be sipping tea if Diddy gets on the stand or not. What about y'all? Do y'all think he'll take the stand?
Once a client testifies, you lose control of the case. You lose control of him. And while I'm sure he's a very eloquent guy and a smart guy, if I'm cross-examining him, I'd spend the first, hour replaying the video while he's on the witness stand without even asking him a question. Not so sure they want to put him through all that.
We have an earlier question, sorry I didn't get to it till now, from Render Token HODL. Was there any additional evidence brought to light? So maybe you mean during opening statements. Look, there was the mention of Mia. They mentioned Cassie Ventura. Maybe new, maybe not. It does become a question, I think, Brian, how much is going to be shown to this jury? What do I mean by that? Leading up to this case, everything was redacted. Everything was blacked out. Is it not going to be anymore? Are we going to know everything by the end of 8 weeks?
Oh, yeah. You're going to have to unredact it, identities, etc. Personal information, no, but, Social Security, that kind of factual, statistical information. But names, identities, you can't have a fair trial. You can't cross-examine witnesses without that material being redacted. So with the exception of, maybe some identifying information about bank accounts and things like that, all bets are off. It's coming in, it's getting unredacted.
We got a few more minutes here. I want to tell everybody what's happening in court. Again, this former security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel is being questioned right now. First witness of this trial, of Sean Combs' criminal trial. Prosecutor asks, when did this incident take place? Mr. Flores says, 11 a.m. I got a report of a woman in distress on the 6th floor. I closed the security base and checked the cameras. There was an African-American man pacing back and forth. I didn't see a female. I rushed there. So again, going into this, remember why this is important, Brian, right? The prosecution's saying this isn't just an episode of him beating her up. It's an episode where she was escaping a certain kind of situation. It's a characteristic, a symptom of a larger forced sexual pattern. And I understand why they're starting with it, but the defense has been saying this is just an unfortunate domestic spat, but this is a very, very particular situation. I have to tell the defense, for the prosecution's point of view, having him running there in a towel, the optics of that, it definitely helps their case, no?
It's staggering evidence, and it fits the narrative that they're trying to project.
Exactly, that he's a sex trafficker. Thank you.
Coercion,
that's what it looked like to me.
If
she said it, that's what it was.
Behavior,
then
and it doesn't get
I
worse
could definitely.
we've all seen videos with domestic violence in it. This is pretty bad. She's trying to get away. She's gotten away,
and he drags her back.
Ranks. And this guy has the insanity, the audacity to chase her down a hallway, wearing a towel, beat her up, drag her back. It doesn't get a whole hell of a lot worse than this, obviously short of a homicide.
Got a question from KC. Do you think Sean will try to throw other celebrities into the fire as well?
He better.
I don't think so, no.
Shit.
I don't know where that gets him.
Diddy has been trying to get out of jail since he knew he was going. He is snitching on niggas. Yes. That's why people been paying, celebrities been paying people all types of shit. Do y'all think he has Jay-Z on video? I don't think so. I think Jay-Z covered his shit. Whatever Jay-Z had going on, y'all niggas wasn't recording, and he was making sure y'all wasn't catching in with his draws down. So, but I believe Diddy, if Diddy gets time, he's gonna throw somebody's. Watch what I say. I don't see Diddy being that, tough guy like that. That's just gonna go to the feds by his goddamn self. I just don't see it in Diddy. I never have, and I don't now. Okay.
Sinking ships. They try and sometimes drag other ships down. I don't see that here. He's got a brilliant defense team. They're going to make this an attack on the charges. I don't think that they're going to be pointing fingers at anybody else.
I do. Let him start
take
getting
what
close
blame
to
he has to
and
take on what they have
like
to
he
take blame
going
on.
Down.
And
I
they'll
bet
argue
you
that there
two
just has been an absence of evidence on what's important in order to prove racketeering. And I think a lot of this is going to be directed toward consent.
Okay, so let's say that they have Diddy and Stevie J on film where I'm not saying they do, I'm saying let's say for example, right? Just for sake of a example. And they are coercively forcing people to take drugs and have sexual encounters with them. And they're out of their mind. They don't know what they're doing. And you can see clearly that that's what's happening. You think Diddy's going to go to prison by himself, or do you think Stevie J is going to go with him? If Diddy is suspected of having something to do surrounding Biggie Smalls' murder, what make you think he wouldn't take somebody to prison with him if he is caught with his pants down, but others were there with him too? Biggie Smalls was Puff Daddy's best friend, right? Oh, okay. We'll see though.
All people prostitutes, they're going to call people escorts. They're going to say they were paid for their services. They're going to say they came there with eyes wide open, and that this isn't what the government has alleged.
Doesn't the defense have to be careful that how they cross-examine alleged victims, saying you're out it for the money, or you were heartbroken, or you kept coming back, or if you really did have an issue, how come you didn't go to authorities? We live in a different day and age, and beating up, that's not fair. Cross-examining these alleged victims.
Let's sip this tea. Diddy is a guy that is very much so known for not paying people, being downright evil, cruel, and mean to people for no apparent reason, taking Al B. Sure's baby mama from him, his whole entire life from Al B. Sure. Yes, Diddy is a unloyal, no dignity. Diddy ain't got no dignity, no morality, or anything like that, right? Yes, if Diddy goes down and he think he could drag a few folks for him.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay dipping.